Hello and welcome to the Nevada Historic Society. My name is Sherry and I am the curator of manuscripts here at the Nevada Historic Society. Did you know we're the oldest museum here in the state, going back to 1904? We've moved around a few times, and our latest location since 1968 is on the UNR campus across from the Fleshman Planetarium. If you've ever been to our museum, maybe you've been led by one of our educational docents. They'll give wonderful stories about different parts of Nevada's history. Can you tell me what maybe one of your favorite artifacts that you saw while on your trip? I know for me, it's our two-headed calf. Of course, our Datsalali and our firearms, but wonderful pieces in our galleries. What we're going to see today is one of our educational docents will be giving you a tour on a specific gallery and a topic of Nevada history. We hope you enjoy this video and come back to our website to watch the other videos that will be on there. And we hope to see you soon in person.
Today we're going to travel on the California Trail. The California Trail goes through Nevada. We're going back to the year 1848. In the beginning of 1848, Nevada was not a state, nor was California. In fact, both of them were part of Mexico. They weren't even part of the United States. But in the spring of 1848, the Mexican government gave what today would be California and Nevada to the United States as U.S. territories. They weren't states, they were territories. And there was no differentiation between California and Nevada. It was all called Upper California. But when people talked about going to California, they were talking about the area that was west of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So most of what today we consider to be the state of California. No one was stopping in what today is the state of Nevada. They were traveling to what is the state of California because there was good farmland there. In 1848, we're a year before the California gold rush. So people aren't going there to find gold. They're going there to get good farmland. So join me on the trail. There's good farmland in California, you hear your father say to your mother. They think you're asleep. This isn't the first time you've heard them whispering about starting a new life in California. Soon your whole family, you and your parents, your brother and sister, your grandparents, and your uncle and his wife will be headed out on the long trail to this faraway place. To get to California, first, you must reach the entry to the California Trail in Kansas, Iowa, or Missouri. This may mean traveling across several states or even sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. You need to start on the trail in late spring, for if you leave too early, the rivers will be too high and you won't be able to cross them. If you leave too late, you may be trapped in the mountains when the first snow falls. Once you reach the entry point, you'll be on the trail for 4 to 6 months. The California Trail is about 2,000 miles long. It starts along an older trail, the Oregon Trail, but leaves the Oregon Trail west of the Rocky Mountains. It crosses what today is northern Nevada before going over the Sierra Nevada mountains into California. There are some forts along the way where you can buy items, but you'll be traveling for weeks at a time across country that doesn't have any places where you can stop and buy food. You'll need to carry hundreds of pounds of flour, sugar, cornmeal, bacon, dried fruit, and beans so you can stay alive on the journey. You'll need to carry medicine because there won't be doctors or pharmacies along the way. You'll travel along rivers as much as possible. This is because you and your animals must have water to drink. A barrel full of water is heavy, so you only carry water when absolutely necessary. You'll need tools to fix the wagon wheels if they go bad, and a box full of grease so the wheels move smoothly. You'll want to pack the things you'll need to start a new life in California, such as farm tools and seeds, and remember to pack a tent. Otherwise, you'll be sleeping underneath the wagon. Like many others going overland to California in 1848, you come from a farm family. This is lucky because it means you already have a wagon to hold your food and supplies. You also have animals who can pull the wagons. A typical farm wagon is 9 feet long by 4 feet wide. You need to use a light, small wagon. The California Trail in 1848 is too rugged to use the bigger Conestoga wagons. The wagons are drawn by mules or oxen. Horses aren't strong enough to handle the terrain you'll encounter. How much could you put in a wagon? Well, think about a king-size bed. Imagine putting everything you need for a journey of several months and to start a new life at the end of the trip on top of something not much larger than a king-size bed. You can pile it about 3 feet high. That's about the same amount of space you would have in a typical wagon traveling the California Trail in 1848. Could you take much? What might you need to leave behind? Some families had 2 wagons. Traveling the California Trail isn't cheap. Because you come from a farm family, you already have wagons and animals you can use. Other people must buy them. You'll also need to get enough food and supplies for the journey. Most wagons, when fully loaded, weighed about a ton. At a time when people often worked for about $1 a day, it could cost hundreds of dollars to make the trip. The first weeks of your journey aren't too difficult. You're traveling with other families across the plains, crossing rivers, dealing with muddy roads after rainstorms, avoiding accidents and illnesses, and occasional encounters with the Native Americans who live there are your biggest concerns. Then you reach the Rocky Mountains. This is your first big test. Can you get your heavy wagon safely up and down the mountains? But you know this isn't the biggest problem facing you. Some earlier immigrants claimed that getting across Nevada was the worst part of the trip, so you're not looking forward to what comes next. And after Nevada, you must get across the Sierra Nevada mountains before winter. You don't have any time to waste. At first, Nevada isn't too bad. You and your fellow travelers are headed to the Humboldt River, which will supply water for your journey in a land that has very little water. Getting the wagons up and down cliffs is a challenge. In places, the trail is too steep for your animals to pull the wagon without help. Instead, you must add extra animals. Sometimes you might need to raise and lower the wagons with ropes. William Taylor, traveling along the Truckee River route of the California Trail, wrote, "We have as steep a hill before us as we have left behind us. Heaven only knows how we are to get along. Our oxen are almost perishing for food, and nothing grows in this hateful valley that will sustain life." You need help from other people in your wagon train to do this, and it's a slow process for everyone. While you were crossing the plains, you could easily travel 20 or more miles per day. Nevada is slower. Some days you might only go a few miles. As a 9 or 10-year-old, chances are you've walked most of the way since you started on the California Trail. You already may have worn out 2 pairs of boots by the time you're in Nevada. You're not wearing comfortable footwear. Everyone wears boots. Your boots are made of leather and have hard soles with no cushioning. The boot for the right foot is exactly the same as the boot for your left foot. They aren't molded to fit your feet. When the wagon train stops for the noon meal or to camp at night, you and the other children may need to gather wood or grasses for a fire. Cooking is done over an open fire using cast iron cooking pots. You'd have what's called a Dutch oven, which can be put on top of coals and used to bake bread. You would need kettles or pots to boil water and prepare coffee or tea. A typical menu on the trail: for breakfast, coffee, bacon, dry or pilot bread. For dinner, what we would call lunch, coffee, cold beans, bacon, or buffalo meat. And for supper, tea, boiled rice, and dried beef or codfish. What are some things you eat often which aren't on this list? Traveling across Nevada takes several weeks, and it gets worse the longer you're on the trail. No matter how well you planned, the trail has taken a toll. You've been eating the same things day after day, so you may be now malnourished. Several families traveling with you aren't so lucky. Some are nearly out of food and have had to beg for more. Others have had so many oxen or mules die on the trail that they left many of their possessions behind. Some even cut their wagons in half to reduce the burden on their remaining animals. You or some of your family may be sick, especially if you drank some bad water or if you got scurvy from not eating fruit. You're worn out from the journey. You're likely crossing Nevada in mid-July or August, the hottest time of the year. Rain is rare, so you're walking in high heat in full sun. As the wagon train moves along, dust is kicked up. The dust contains salt, which hurts your eyes and can be hard to breathe. You may need to cover your face with a scarf to keep going. It's even harder on the animals. In some places, the grasses along the trail are full of salt, which makes the animals thirstier. William Rothwell crossed Nevada on the California Trail. He wrote, "The dust here is extremely tormenting. Much of it has a lime-like appearance, taste and smell, and is very injurious to the skin, chapping the hands and face very much." And the farther you go, the worse things become. The water in the river smells bad and tastes bad, but at least you have water. For the animals, the grasses they eat are becoming hard to find. Now your animals are becoming weaker every day. If they become too weak, they won't be able to pull your wagon. Eventually, you leave the Humboldt River. No matter which branch of the California Trail you take, you must cross a desert. The best known of these is the 40-mile desert along the Truckee River route. It takes at least 2 days to travel the 40-mile desert. If you're smart, you'll travel at night when it's cooler and stay under your wagon during the day. Virgil Pringle wrote, "Our stock weak and working badly, getting very little water and nothing to eat. Left 2 steers belonging to Collins on the road, they being too weak to come in, several others barely getting through." What water there might be in the 40-mile desert is too hot to drink. Other desert areas have water which is poisonous. The thin crust of the desert is okay for people or animals to step on, but the heavy wagons break through the crust and into the sand below. The animals pulling the wagons are straining hard to get the wagons through. This plaque tells what one traveler encountered while crossing the 40-mile desert. Starvation for men and animals stalked every mile. 1,061 dead mules, almost 5,000 dead horses, 3,750 dead cattle, and 953 graves of people. The then value of personal property loss was set at $1 million. All this in just 40 miles of desert. How desperate must people have been if they abandoned many of their possessions and sometimes the wagons which carried everything they owned? Eventually, the trail leads to the Truckee Meadows or the Carson Valley, where there is plenty of water and an opportunity to relax. Just one more huge obstacle to cross, the Sierra Nevada mountains, before reaching your new home in California. You linger for several days, resting your animals and repairing your wagons before you start the long, hard climb up the mountains. You're only 100 miles from the farmlands of California. If you make it safely across the mountains, your new life in California will begin. But even if you live to be very old, you'll never forget the months you spent traveling west on the California Trail.